We all know that huge volumes of data are generated every day. And we also know that we have to somehow make meaningful information from this particular data. So in order to get information from data, we have to keep the data as simple as possible so that it is easier to understand. That is where data classification comes into the picture. See you on the other side. We will see what is data classification today. Hi there. Welcome back. This is Balu here from SP Tech. If you are here in this channel for the very first time, please do subscribe to my channel and hit on the notification bell so that you get all my future video updates. So let's look into what are the different types of data, or how do you classify data and statistics. Now, when you talk of data, there are two major classifications of data. So one we call it as quantitative data and the other one will call it as qualitative data. Now this quantitative data can be further classified as a discrete data or a continuous data, and the qualitative data can be classified as an ordinal data and a nominal data. Now these types of classification will basically help you to simplify the data in order to get an meaningful information from the data. Now let's go and understand what exactly you mean by quantitative data or numerical data. Now what is quantitative data? We all know what is the meaning of quantity. So quantitative means identifying the quantity. Now quantity can be got either using counting technique or it can be got using measurement technique. Now whether you are using measurement or counting, we can actually classify this quantitative data into continuous data and discrete data. Now what is continuous data? Continuous data, basically I have an interval where I have a measurement. For example, I will give you an interval between 1 to 10. So I start measuring some values between 1 and 10. So I can measure as 1, 2, 3, 4 up till 10. Or I can measure 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2.1 and go on. So there can be multiple number of values between 1 and 10. So this is an example of a continuous data. Let's say I am measuring a voltage. So you have a measurement value there, or you have a measurement unit there, for example volts. So that's an example of a continuous data, or you are measuring temperature. It's an example of a continuous data. On the other hand, if you are trying to count something, it is called as a discrete data. So one simple example of a discrete data is a dice. We all have seen a six-sided dice or a six-faced dice. We roll the dice and you get a number. So whatever number you get is basically the number between 1 and 6. Either you get 1, 2, 4 or any number between 1 and 6. You cannot certainly get a number like 1, 2.5 or 3.5. So generally a discrete data is actually a whole number. So that is the basic difference between the continuous data and the discrete data, and both come under quantitative data because we are trying to quantify something. So when we have a huge data set, it is very important for us to understand what are continuous data and what are discrete data in my data set. So in my next slide, I am going to give you some illustrations and see whether we are able to identify or classify them as whether it is a continuous data or whether it is a discrete data. Now I have given you few illustrations here. For example, speed of the bike. Now I want to measure the speed of the bike. So I will start measuring as soon as the bike starts. I am going to start driving the bike. So I will look into my kilometer and the odometer readings. So I'll find that the initial speed is say 10 kilometers per hour. Then the speed gradually increases, say 12 kilometers per hour, 12.5 kilometers per hour. So over a given period of time and distance, I will have multiple, speed per hour. So this is called as data classification, and this kind of data classification is actually called the continuous data because I've got continuous numbers. Now the second type of illustration what I've given you is number of dogs in your neighborhood. Now in this case I have to count, I cannot measure. So I will go to my neighborhood and find out or count how many number of dogs are there. So I may get the value as 3 today. Tomorrow I may get the value as 4. Day after I may get the value of 5. So always my count is a whole number. I cannot say I had 2.5 dogs today. So that's not going to be logical. So discrete data talks about counting. So number of dogs in your neighborhood is a simple example of an discrete data. Now coming to the third illustration, your body weight. Now I am actually weighing the body weight, or I am trying to measure the weight of the body. So I'll start measuring, say probably a week wise or a month wise or once in 6 months. So the weight of the body keeps on varying. Initially the weight of our body could be say 50 kgs. Then it could be 50.5 kgs. Then say 60 kgs, 60.5 kgs or 70.1 kg. So there can be continuous values here. So your body weight can be an example of an continuous data. The height of a student, again we have a measurement quantity here. I am going to measure the height of a student using centimeters or feet. So this also is an example of an continuous data. So when we are given certain illustrations like this, we can find out what kind of data falls in, whether it is a continuous data or whether it is an discrete data. And remember, both this fall under a category called quantitative data. Great. Now let us understand what is qualitative data. So the name itself implies qualitative, basically implies quality. Quality actually implies classification or categories. So you can call qualitative data as categorical data, where you can call quantitative data as numerical data. So this qualitative data can be further classified as nominal data or ordinal data. Now what is a nominal data? Nominal data do not have any predetermined categories. So let us take some categories as an example. Let's say in Karnataka we have 3 major political parties. You have a BJP, you have a Congress and you have a Janata Dal. Now it is not predetermined that you have to put BJP first, Congress next and Janata Dal next. You can either say BJP, Congress, Janata Dal, or you can say Congress, BJP and Janata Dal. And you can give some numbers for each of these parties. You can say 1 for BJP, 2 for Congress and 3 for Janata Dal. Now this numbers does not imply anything. So when I say 1, it does not mean that BJP is low in category, or when I say 3, it does not mean that Janata Dal is high in category. So there is no predetermined order in case of an nominal data. But when you talk of an ordinal data, there is always a predetermined order. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you are actually filling the satisfaction of a customer survey, or you have gone to a restaurant where they have given you a feedback form and you are actually giving your customer survey, or you are giving the feedback about the food what you just had in the restaurant. So they have given you 3 options. For example, the food was excellent, the food was good, the food was bad and the food was worst. Now you have a predetermined order here: excellent, good, bad and worst. So excellent can have a numerical value 4, good can have a numerical value 3, bad can have a numerical value 2 and worst can have a numerical value 1. Now here number signifies the type of the satisfaction level the customer is trying to portray. So when he's giving the number as 4, when he's giving the satisfaction level as 4, it means that the food is actually excellent. And when he's giving it as 1, it means that the food is actually worst. So that means ordinal data will basically have predetermined order, whereas a nominal data would not have any predetermined order. But in both of the cases, it is actually coming under something called as qualitative data, where we are trying to classify or we are trying to group certain things. You can find many such examples in your real life where you have qualitative data. For example, you have a gender. The gender can either be a male or it can either be a female. Now there is no predetermined order here. You can either say female or a male, or you can say male or a female. Or you can even have marital status. You can say married, you can say divorced, or you can say other. So you can give some numbers for this. 1 for married, 2 for divorced, and 3 for other. Now like this you can find number of illustrations in your qualitative data. Now the question is, we know what data is, we know how data is classified. The question is, how do you organize this data? This is very important for us because we are not dealing with few little volume of data. We are actually dealing with humongous amount of data. So how do you organize it? So we have to organize in a certain structured format. So let us see what is the meaning of structured organization of data now. Now this is an example of a structured data where the data is actually organized in the form of columns and rows. So it's a simple example of a table. So whatever data you find in your Excel sheet, they are all examples of a structured data, or whatever data you find in your tables of a database management system, they are all examples of a structured data. Now any structured data would basically have columns. Now these columns are actually called as variables, and every row is either called as a case or we can call it as an observation. So that means for roll number the value of case is 1, for name the value of case is Anil or the observation is Anil. Now why it is called as a variable? Because you can see that in the name column or a name variable, the value keeps on varying. Now I have a small task for you. Pause this video for a while. Look at this particular table and see what are the variables which actually fall under quantitative data and what are the variables which actually falls under qualitative data, and try to classify them whether it is nominal or ordinal, or whether it is numeric or discrete, and put the comments in the comment box. So this is the kind of assignment which you actually do in order to understand the data classification better. Thank you so much for watching this particular session. I will see you in the next session. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.